Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for your service and for joining us here this evening. Secretary Mattis, after the attacks on 9/11, the leaders of our country made a commitment to the American people that they would go after and defeat Al-Qaeda. Yet, we've not carried out a serious campaign to do so, to defeat Al-Qaeda in Syria specifically, where as a result of that, Al-Qaeda has been able to gain strength and territory. In your budget request this year, your request of $500 million to counter ISIS in Syria doesn't include any mention or dollar to go after Al-Qaeda. So my question is this for military reasons or political reasons, namely that Al-Qaeda is allied with and so deeply intertwined with the so-called moderate rebels that the U.S., Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and other Gulf states have been financing and supporting in their fight to overthrow the Syrian government?
Congresswoman, we have had a serious campaign, as you know, against Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda in the Fatah area has been shredded as a capable outfit. They have been unable to attack America for many, many years. Now, they have franchised out, is the point you're making, and from Yemen to Somalia, from the Sahel to certainly Syria and all. This is a franchised Al-Qaeda metastasizing threat.
And respectfully, sir, I agree and understand that Al-Qaeda has spread, but specifically with Syria, Al-Qaeda's presence in Syria is far greater today than it ever was before, which speaks to my question about our lack of taking them on in a serious way, specifically in Syria.
The location of where they're at in Syria makes them very difficult for us to reach, frankly, and we would have to deconflict even more vis-a-vis the Russians. Let me ask General Dunford if he has anything to add to this, but you're right, they're embedded pretty deeply and they're hard to get to.
Congresswoman, I know you visited and you probably know, well, you could argue whether we've had sufficient resources. We do have a dedicated campaign against Al-Qaeda in Syria. We do have specific resources dedicated just for the fight against Al-Qaeda. But it's fair to say our priority in Syria has been ISIS because we're operating largely in the east, and that's where ISIS has been.
To both of you gentlemen, when your budget is for a counter-ISIS program, your commander's mission on the ground for Inherent Resolve is to defeat Daesh or ISIS, and there's no mention of Al-Qaeda. And the fact that Al-Qaeda has become so difficult to target specifically because our country has not been taking them on in a serious way, and they have become so deeply intertwined with these armed militants that have been and continue to be working alongside and oftentimes under the command of Al-Qaeda, with our support through the CIA and Saudi Arabia and Qatar and these other countries. So given the fact that this is the group that's been targeting us since that attack on 9/11, what can we do in Congress and the administration to stop that support of these armed militants that are strengthening Al-Qaeda and actually go after them?
I think, Congressman, we could start, if this is Congress's intent, with an authorization for the use of military force in Syria against Al-Qaeda, with the funding and resourcing. The statement by Congress would show the spirit of Congress, frankly.
Yes, sir, but the authorization that you are currently operating under in Syria was the one passed by Congress in 2001 to go after Al-Qaeda and its affiliates. Isn't that right?
That is, we use that authority. Yes, ma'am. The challenge is that right now we have a greater clear and present danger with ISIS, and you saw why in 2014. And we went after what we thought was the priority danger through two different through one administration and now with this administration.
Well, sir, I think the reason why ISIS, you're saying, is now a greater danger is because it wasn't taken seriously. One reason among many, it wasn't taken seriously from the beginning, and that is the concern here with Al-Qaeda, is that because it has been largely ignored, it has grown to a point where it has now become difficult to take on and now presents a greater threat to the United States, and this must be addressed.
I think that's fair, and we are addressing it from Yemen to Somalia and other areas, but we're certainly, we'll look at what you're talking about here. It's not that we're not addressing it there, it's just that we don't have the reach right now, and we'll take a look at it, but there's plenty of enemies in Syria, and I'd agree with you on that.